It's no secret that Canada's population is growing, but just how fast? Well, on June 16th, 2023, Canada hit a pretty crazy milestone. It reached 40 million people. Now, that might not sound huge compared to some other countries, but it's a big deal when you look at how fast Canada got here. My name is Morgan Little. I'm a realtor here in Toronto, so I'm witnessing firsthand the growth of this already populous city. And in this video, we're going to go over 7 factors contributing to Canada's massive population growth. It took 62 years to go from 10 million to 30 million people, but only 26 years to jump from 30 million up to 40 million. That's some rapid growth. The growth rate, which takes into account things like births, deaths, immigration, and emigration, was at 2.3% in 2022. That's quite a bit higher than some similar countries like the US at 0.4% and Australia at 1.1%. But should we be growing so much so fast? You might be wondering, with issues like our declining healthcare system, our severe housing shortage, and the affordability crisis we're experiencing, shouldn't the government slow down the growth? Well, surprise, they're actually doing the exact opposite. They have a plan called the Century Initiative, which aims to have 100 million Canadians by 2100. Historically, Canada had fewer people, not just because it's a bit colder than other populous countries, but also because of the Canadian Shield, a rugged region that doesn't support large-scale agriculture. But with the Arctic region heating up, there's a race for sovereignty and resources. Canada has to make its claim, especially since it's heavily reliant on the EU and the US for trade and defense. Now, let's touch on housing. More people mean higher demand for housing, and when supply is low, prices go up, which has been a huge factor, especially in the last couple of years. Take a look at this chart of house prices in Canada. It's a bit wild, especially in places like Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. But don't think it's all about immigration. There are other challenges, like the need for more workers in trades, the tech industry, and boosting worker productivity. To make Canada a tech powerhouse, they're attracting tech workers from all over the world. So, in a nutshell, Canada's rapid population growth has various factors at play, and it's going to have a big impact on the country for years to come. Let's look at the 7 factors to consider. Number 1, demographic trends and labor shortages. Canada is witnessing significant population growth due to demographic factors. The country's birth rate has been declining over the years, hovering around 1.4 to 1.5, which is below the replacement rate of 2. This means that without immigration, the population would naturally decrease, much like what's happening in countries like Japan. Additionally, many members of the baby boomer generation are reaching retirement age, creating a need for a new generation of workers to replace them. This demographic situation has led to a demand for immigrants to fill labor gaps, thereby boosting the population. Also, if you look at this population pyramid, lots of the baby boomers are nearing retirement age, like I said, so they need a new generation of workers to replace them. So there is some reasoning for having goals like this type of population growth. Number 2, immigration policies. Canada has historically been open to immigration, and this tradition continues today. The Canadian government has implemented policies to attract immigrants, including various skilled worker programs, refugee resettlement, and family reunification initiatives. In 2019, Canada welcomed 341,000 immigrants, and this number has been steadily increasing. In 2020 and beyond, the government aimed to admit more than 400,000 immigrants annually, with a goal of reaching 500,000 by 2025. These policies are a driving force behind the country's population growth. Number 3, economic and tech industry growth. Canada's economy, particularly the tech sector, plays a pivotal role in attracting immigrants. The country boasts top-tier research institutions and is actively competing for global tech talent. Special programs are designed to make it easier for tech workers, digital nomads, and H-1B visa holders to move to Canada. Despite its tech prowess, Canada faces challenges in retaining talent, as many workers tend to move to the US for higher wages and lower living costs. The situation is prompting Canada to actively seek and retain tech talent, contributing to population growth. Number 4, I talked about this earlier, the Century Initiative and long-term vision. Canada's Century Initiative is a plan that envisions having 100 million Canadians by 2100. This initiative is not just about achieving a large population number, it also involves strategic planning for the growth of specific regions, such as the Greater Toronto Area and Greater Vancouver. The aim is to boost these regions' populations by 200 to 400%. This long-term vision is guiding government policies and immigration strategies, which are contributing to the rapid population growth. Number 5, Geopolitical challenges and Arctic competition. The geopolitical landscape is also influencing Canada's population growth. Canada faces competition in the Arctic, especially concerning sovereignty and resource claims. While Canada's Arctic region has only about 150,000 inhabitants, Russia has over 2 million. Both countries have programs to encourage people to live and work in the north due to the potential resources, including minerals, fish, oil, and gas. The opening of new shipping routes through the Arctic due to climate change further adds to the geopolitical importance of the region. The competition is leading Canada to bolster its presence in the Arctic, which may contribute to population growth in those areas specifically. Number 6, housing prices and economic challenges. Population growth is also impacting housing in Canada, as we've seen. More people need housing, and when supply is low, prices tend to rise. This is particularly noticeable in cities like Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, where demand is higher. While immigration is a factor, other issues like the high cost of living and the lack of affordable housing have contributed to the housing price challenge. The government, through various initiatives, is trying to address these issues to ensure the population growth remains sustainable. Number 7, productivity and economic competitiveness. While population growth can improve labor utilization, it's essential to consider labor productivity. Canada is projected to lag behind other advanced economies in real GDP per capita. This is partly due to industries like mining, forestry, telecoms, and banking being heavily protected from competition. Increased competition and investment in research and development are crucial for improving labor productivity. In conclusion, Canada's rapid population growth is the result of a complex interplay of demographic trends, immigration policies, economic goals, and geopolitical factors. These dynamics are shaping the country's future and will have far-reaching implications for various aspects of Canadian society, from the economy to culture. What are your thoughts on this? Obviously, growth is necessary, but are we growing too much too fast? Let me know in the comments. And if there's anything I can do to help in your real estate journey, don't hesitate to book a call using the link below, and I look forward to connecting. Till then, stay well and stay hungry.